This is my 1972 FJ40. I bought this Land Cruiser 4 years ago. When I bought it, the plan was to clean it up, get it running, and drive it pretty much as it is. But once I saw it in person, I made the mistake of deciding I was going to do a full restoration on it. Now, I have done full restorations in the past. A good example of that is the classic Mini that I fully restored several years ago. So I do know how much work and time is involved, but for some reason I still thought it was a good idea to restore this Land Cruiser. In fact, I got 39 videos into a build series before I decided that it wasn't a good idea to restore this Land Cruiser. For those of you that watched those 39 videos, you know that I did a lot of work during that time. I rebuilt the knuckles, the hubs, the brakes. I completely rebuilt the engine. I added fuel injection. Cleaned up the transmission and the transfer case and replaced all the seals. So then we had a running engine, a very nice frame, good suspension, new brakes. Basically, the only thing left to do now is to work on the body, and that's where the trouble started. So I stripped all the paint off of the tub and I started cutting out the rust and replacing it with new metal. I have done repairs like this before, so I had a pretty good idea of what I was getting myself into. The problem is with the design of the body. The way that the body is made, there are lots of cavities within the body itself. So when you weld on the outside of the body, oftentimes you can't access the backside of that piece of metal to clean up the weld and to treat it. If you don't treat the backside of the weld, it's going to start rusting immediately. Within a pretty short period of time, probably a year or two, it's going to rust right back through that panel and it's going to be exposed back on the outside of the body. I did buy some paint that was designed to be sprayed inside of tight spaces like this, and I did spray that into some of those cavities in hopes that that would treat the backside of the weld and that it wouldn't rust through. But ultimately, I didn't really have faith in this method. I didn't want to go through the process of doing a full restoration on this thing, painting it, making it look brand new, and then having it rust back through almost immediately. The only way to really ensure that all the cavities of these body panels would be treated from the inside out would be to have the entire pieces dipped in some kind of acid maybe to remove all the rust, and then some kind of coating to treat the rust. This would be extremely expensive and time consuming, and I really have no interest in going down that road. But I feel like that's what would be required to make something like these body panels actually not rust after you've restored them. So rather than fix the body that I had, I bought a whole nother Land Cruiser. This is a 1967, and it spent the last few decades sitting in the Arizona sun. Nice, dry climate. It does have some surface rust, has a little bit of rust through in a few areas, but overall the body's in really good condition. Much better condition than the other Land Cruiser. I've discovered over the last few years that I actually prefer non-restored cars to fully restored cars. Like I said, I have restored several cars. I know what it's like to have something that looks and feels new. I also know what it's like to buy something that still has a lot of its original character and wear and charm. And I just prefer the latter. So even though the body of this FJ is in really good condition, the engine is not. The engine is basically junk. There's also a lot of missing parts in the interior, the seats are gone. So really a lot of the things that I already have from the 72 are the things that are needed for this 67. So it's kind of perfect. Between the two, I should be able to build a nice running, driving, pretty original Land Cruiser. So that's the new plan. Let's get to it. So first up, I buffed out the paint a little bit, mainly just to see how much of this was surface rust and how much of it was going to come off, and it actually cleaned up really well. Then I pulled the engine out of the 67, I power washed the frame and painted it, and then I pulled the engine from the 72 and installed it into the 67. I also took the front axle off the 72 frame and installed it here on the 67. Then I removed the rear axle, I pressure washed the rear section of the frame and painted it, and I installed the 72 axles at the rear as well. I also installed the new rear taillights that I bought for the 72, as well as the rear bumpers. Then I moved up front and installed the new front bumper as well. Hey Walter, what's up buddy? Good to see you. Thanks for coming out and saying hi. So there you go. Now we are a big step closer to actually having a Land Cruiser that we can drive. I have owned my 72 Land Cruiser for over 4 years now, and I have never driven one of these. I have never been in one. I bought it because I thought it was a cool car to work on, and I am very much looking forward to actually being able to drive it. And now we are much, much closer to being able to drive this one. Now, I know some of you were probably looking forward to watching me go through the whole process of doing all the body work on the other Land Cruiser and painting it. And I'm sorry that's not going to happen, but this was the right way for me to go. It's my project. I needed to make the right decision for me personally, and this was the right one. However, I have been stripping the spray paint off of the driver's side of this car. Someone had stripped down some of the paint and spray painted over it. So I will be painting some sections of this car. I will be painting areas of the driver's side of the Land Cruiser. So there will be some painting involved. This just will not be a full-on restoration. So hope you guys like it. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.